Welcome back to Fireside Giants. Once at the fireside, always at the fireside. My name is Anthony Rivardo. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped. Check out the link in the description and our discount code Fireside. Use that for 20% off at checkout for amazing products. I love them. You'll love them, and you'll help support our channel and help us push out even more elite content on the daily for you guys. But as we jump into this discussion about the Giants' 2021 regular season and preseason schedules released tonight at 8 p.m. officially. So there was leaks all throughout the day. There was constant schedule leaks, and we did make a quick video updating you on most of the leaks earlier in the day. But now that the schedule is officially out, I figured I'd sit down, break them down for you, break down the schedule, and give my predictions week by week and, final record predictions for you guys. And you can chime in the comment section down below what you guys think the Giants are going to do this year. What record do you think they're going to finish with? Of course, this is the first 17-game schedule in the history of the NFL. That's super exciting. More football, the merrier. That's going to be fun. Of course, that brings into the discussion that's going to change a lot of things in terms of the NFL record books, right? Everything is going to change there. Peyton Manning holds all of these records because he did it all in 16 games, but Patrick Mahomes came pretty close in 16 games. Will he be able to break them in 17? Probably. So it'll be interesting to see how the record books look in a couple of years from now as we make the transition to a 17-game schedule. Before the first 17-game schedule in the history of the NFL, the New York Giants have it pretty easy. Maybe not the easiest, not the toughest, though. They get off to a pretty reasonable start here on their schedule, which we'll break down in just a second. I believe they have the 8th easiest schedule in the NFL based on opponents' winning records from last season. Of course, the Chicago Bears have the 3rd toughest schedule, so that's something to keep an eye on. As Giants fans know, we hold the 2022 first-round pick of the Chicago Bears. We got that in our trade down in the 2021 first round. So that's really, really exciting. Sorry about that, everyone. Had an issue with the technology, with the audio, so going to jump right back into this. As I was saying, with the Chicago Bears, I think that's something that we're going to have to monitor, but keep in mind that we do play the Chicago Bears this season in Week 17 on the road. That's going to be a fun one, as the Chicago Bears hopefully hand us a top 10 pick in next year's draft. They have a really tough schedule, so, Giants fans, we're rooting against the Bears next season. We're rooting against them every week and hoping that they lose as many games as possible so the Giants can get the highest draft pick possible while also succeeding on our own right and getting a really low draft pick from our own, the draft pick that we hold annually. So Week 1 of this year, we're going to be at home, September 12th, 4:25 p.m., hosting the Denver Broncos. Now, we're going to dive into every single one of these matchups in their own videos over the course of the next month or so, and, leading into the regular season, breaking down basically just each matchup, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses of each team going into that game. So, but, to sneak preview that, the Denver Broncos, of course, they've got that quarterback controversy. They've got Drew Lock. They've got Teddy Bridgewater. I think this is going to be an interesting one because that's one of the better secondaries in the NFL. So right off the bat, the Giants' new crop of receivers and playmakers is going to get tested. They're going to go up against a really good secondary. You got Patrick Surtain, of course, also entering the fold in Denver's secondary. You got Justin Simmons, who's one of the best safeties in the NFL. And, of course, Giants' offensive line is not very good. They're going to have to go up against Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, Week 1. Giants are going to get tested off the bat, but this is one that I think they can manage. They're going up against a Denver Broncos offense that has a lot of uncertainty at the quarterback position, but has a pretty good group of playmakers in the receiving core. Tight end Noah Fant is going into his second season. He's a pretty solid player that I'm a big fan of. They've got a good amount of playmakers, but will Teddy Bridgewater be able to put it all together for them? Will Drew Lock be able to put it all together for them? I don't know. That's going to be the question mark in Week 1 for the Denver Broncos as they go up against the Giants defense that is one of the best defenses in the NFL and has only gotten better this offseason. So I think this is one that the Giants should win. I'm going to pick them to win this, so I'm going to have the Giants starting off 1-0. And then, of course, in Week 2, we're going to travel over to Washington, play the football team on Thursday night. That's our first primetime matchup of the season. We have 3 primetime matchups in the 2021 season, and this is our first one on the road against Washington. That's Daniel Jones' team, right? That's Daniel Jones' son right there. Daniel Jones has never lost to the Washington football team. He's beat them every chance he's gotten, and I don't see a reason why that should change. I think, Washington's got a really good football team. Their defense is stacked. They've got a good group of playmakers now with Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Diami Brown out of UNC. They got him in the NFL draft. They've got a really solid group of playmakers, and they just don't have a quarterback. It's kind of the same thing as Washington. I'd say that as Denver, I'd say Washington's playmaker group is a little bit better, but their quarterback situation is Ryan Fitzpatrick. How much do you trust Ryan Fitzpatrick to go out there and win you a consistent amount of games? You're kind of just relying on that great defense that they have, I guess, and relying on those playmakers to get it done for Ryan Fitzpatrick. So I think this is a game that the Giants should win. I think that their defense has enough talent around it to slow down Fitzmagic and hopefully contain those playmakers. And I think the Giants offense, will start to hit a stride week 2, 3, 4 as we gel those new pieces together. And I think, this is a game that should be winnable for us. So I'm going to have the Giants going 2-0 off the start. This is my early predictions. Of course, these could change by the time we get to the regular season. Injuries could happen in training camp, preseason. We could look terrible in preseason. Not that I put too much stock in that anyway, but these are my early predictions for the regular season. Now, week 3. Again, we are back at home against the Atlanta Falcons on September 26th. 1 p.m. game, their first 1 p.m. game of the season. This one's going to be fun because this is a team that we should beat. We should beat the Atlanta Falcons. Their roster has kind of turned to the toilet in recent years. They've gone over a lot of overturn on this roster as they've tried to kind of start their rebuild. They're kind of starting to rebuild this team. If they really wanted to commit to the rebuild, they probably should have traded down from number 4 overall. Probably, not gone Kyle Pitts there, but Kyle Pitts is an extraordinary talent, a guy that has Hall of Fame potential, and he's going to be phenomenal probably off the bat as a rookie. So he's the number 1 guy that you want to key in on in week 3, but there's a bunch of other playmakers to key in on that offense. You still got Calvin Ridley, still got Julio Jones most likely. I know there's a chance he gets traded between now and the start of the season, but the odds are that he's going to be on the field in week 3 going up against the Giants secondary. But thankfully, the Giants have a really good secondary, and they have James Bradberry, who used to play for the Carolina Panthers, very familiar with guarding the NFC South receivers, which we're going to be facing all of them. And Julio Jones is the best one to face. So I think James Bradberry should help us out there. I think that we've got quite a few good players in our secondary and on our defense that should be able to slow down Atlanta's offense. And then, of course, I think Atlanta's defense is pretty poor as it is. So if the Giants' offense is gelling by week 3, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be able to pull this one out. So I'm going to predict 3-0. And then week 4, we're going to travel down to the NFC South once again. We're going to go ahead and play the New Orleans Saints at 1 p.m. on October 3rd. Now, I think this is another really interesting matchup because this one has shootout potential to me. I think that this game could be really high scoring. Jameis Winston, this is again kind of like those first 2 matchups where you had the Denver Broncos and Washington football teams. Really good rosters, big question mark at quarterback. That's what the Saints are. The Saints arguably have the best roster in the NFL. They have top to bottom talent on defense, on offense, one of the best offensive lines in the league, one of the best playmaking groups in the league. Still got Michael Thomas and a couple other good receivers out there. Still got Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. And then on defense, you still got Cameron Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore. You've got a lot of really good guys in that secondary. And Demario Davis is still a really good linebacker that they have. There's just a lot of talent on that team all around. But at the quarterback position, you just got a big question mark. You got Taysom Hill still, of course, right? He's going to probably rotate in there, and he's going to play tight end, running back, wide receiver, whatever. But you got Jameis Winston as your starting quarterback. And this is a guy who, when last time he was a starter, did throw 30 touchdown passes in a season. He's got capability of going for 5 touchdown passes in a game if he really needs to. He can run up the scoreboard. But in the meanwhile, he's probably going to run up the turnovers. And, that's why when he threw for 30 touchdowns, he also threw for 30 interceptions. He was the 30 for 30 guy. So that's going to be the key for the Giants in week 4. You got to get Jameis Winston to turn the ball over like he always does. And if you can get Jameis to be the typical turnover machine that he is, while also keeping Daniel Jones from being the turnover machine that he's grown accustomed to being, that's the Giants' key to winning. Win the turnover battle in week 4. You could probably say that to most games in the NFL, but that one specifically, with Jameis Winston being such a volatile quarterback, you got to win that turnover battle against such a good roster like that. That's what it's going to come down to. So that one's kind of a coin toss for me, though. I think this could be a high-scoring game, but I think the Giants get off to a solid 4-0 start here. I'm feeling pretty confident in them. I like what they did in this offseason, and I really like their odds against those 4 teams. And then week 5, they're going to travel on the road, have their second divisional matchup of the season. They're going to play the Dallas Cowboys on October 10th, 4:25 p.m. So this is an exciting one. Always playing in Dallas. That's always exciting. Love watching the Giants play the Cowboys in Dallas. It's just a heated rivalry. It's like a greater stage when we play them in Dallas. And this is going to be tough because the Dallas Cowboys have a very, very good roster, on offense at least. Their defense is still pretty suspect, They did add Micah Parsons, really good, talented linebacker, was, in my opinion, the number one defender in the 2021 NFL draft class. But how great is he going to be for them in year one, and how great is that defense going to be after being so poor last year? I mean, that defense was historically bad last year. How big of a jump are they really going to take? The Giants offense, you could say, how big of a jump is that going to take, in 1 year? Because it was really, really bad last year for the Giants offense. But, you got Dak Prescott coming back for the Dallas Cowboys, so he's probably going to lead the charge. He's going to be hungry. He's going to be ready to whoop down on the Giants after we're the team that had him get injured last season, not intentionally, of course, but it did happen against us. He's probably going to come in with a little extra motivation, revenge in week 5 at home for the Dallas Cowboys. So I think this is one where the Giants finally drop. I do have them going 4-0, which is probably pretty generous anyway. And then I'm going to have them go 4-1. Drop this one against the Cowboys. I think that's going to be a really tough matchup just with Dak coming back, with how much explosion they have on offense. And then I do think that their defense does improve, at least marginally. So I think early on in the season, this one's on the road. I think this is the one that we drop. We'll see how I feel on the second matchup later on in the season in December. But after that one, week 6, back at home, this time playing the Los Angeles Rams, 1 p.m. October 17th. Now, this is another game that I think is going to be really tough for the Giants, because I think the Los Angeles Rams' window of opportunity to go for a Super Bowl is right now or never. They kind of made this move. They moved on from Jared Goff. They brought in Matt Stafford, who I still think is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And they added him to a roster that has a lot of talent on offense. They've got Cooper Kupp. They've got Robert Woods. They've still got talent there. They've still got good tight end, Tyler Higbee. Offensive line is still really solid. And, of course, Sean McVay's still running the show. So whenever you have Sean McVay as your offensive coordinator or head coach, that offense is going to be good. And then they've still got a lot of talent on defense. Still have the best defender in the world in Aaron Donald. Still got Jalen Ramsey, arguably the best cornerback in the NFL still. And you still got a lot of really good talent over there. They did retain Leonard Floyd, of course. So I think this is going to be a tough one for the Giants. This is one that I think they could win. The Giants came close to winning it last year when they played the Rams, but they were also going against Jared Goff. They're not going against Matt Stafford. I think the Rams are going to surprise a lot of people this year. People are really down on the Rams. I think that Matt Stafford is going to be a huge boost for them. I think it's going to give Sean McVay the flexibility to call a lot more plays and do a lot more with that offense. And I think that's scary for the rest of the league because the Rams are a really good team. They have a really good roster, and I think, it's only going to get better this year with Matt Stafford. Quarterback can make all the difference, and I think Matt Stafford will. So I do think that the Giants drop that game in week 6. I just think the Rams are the slightly better team, and I think their quarterback is just more established and better, and I think ultimately that's what wins them the game. Week 7, though, October 24th, 1 p.m. Carolina Panthers at home. Giants are going to host them in MetLife. That's Sam Darnold's return to MetLife Stadium. I think that's really, really fun and exciting. It's going to be Darnold versus the Giants. I like that matchup. I'm rooting for Darnold over in Carolina. I like Darnold a lot. I just think that the Jets kind of ruined him. They never gave him the pieces. They never gave him what he needed. And that's kind of what we almost saw with the Giants and Daniel Jones. But this year they decided, okay, screw that. We're going to give him the pieces. We're not going to turn him into the next Sam Darnold. And now Daniel Jones has all the pieces. And I think that's where week 7, this is where it all comes into play. Daniel Jones has all the pieces. Sam Darnold has all the pieces now with Carolina. It's going to be fun. They've got a good group of playmakers. They've still got, what's his name? DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey, of course. They brought back Taylor Moton. They got a good offensive line, or, decent offensive line that's improving here. And then, of course, Sam Darnold. So I think that one's going to be really, really interesting in week 7. And we'll see exactly how that goes. But I do think that the Giants are going to be able to pull that off because I think that the Panthers' defense is still really, let's say, improving, really young, developmental. They really need to improve a lot more before they establish themselves as a contending football team, playoff contender. And I think that the Giants' defense is just far better than their defense and far better than most defenses in the league. So I think that the Giants' defense will be able to hold down Panthers' offense, confuse Sam Darnold, rattle him, revert him back to his New York Jets self. And I think that the Giants' offense will do enough to overcome what might be Brian Burns and a couple other decent pieces on Carolina's defense. So I'm going to have us winning in week 7. So that brings us to 5-2, I believe. Yep, 4-0 to start, 4-2, 5-2. So then we're going to travel along to Kansas City to have probably, one of our two toughest matchups on the season. This is going to be a primetime game, the second primetime game of the season. Monday Night Football, November 1st, the day after Halloween. That's a little scary, right? A little spooky game there. Now we're going to be playing the Kansas City Chiefs. We're coming off of a Super Bowl loss. Now, why did the Chiefs lose that game? Because they had no offensive line protection for Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes was still phenomenal, as he always is, but they couldn't protect him. They went out there and they upgraded their offensive line this offseason. I don't think they're going to have that problem. Now, of course, that is the Giants' key to winning that game. Pressure Patrick Mahomes. You have to apply pressure to him, and you have to do it a lot. You have to get to him frequently. But, of course, I do think this is a game that the Giants lose. I think that the Chiefs are still one of the best teams in the NFL, despite losing the Super Bowl this past season. They still made it to the Super Bowl, and they put in a pretty good effort. And Patrick Mahomes is still the best player in the world, in my opinion. So I think that the Giants lose this game on primetime, but I expect them to put up a decent fight. The Giants wouldn't have been put on the primetime schedule against the Chiefs if they weren't expected to put up a decent fight. So I think that they will. And then they'll travel and travel back home actually in week 9, and they'll play another AFC West team with the Las Vegas Raiders. And this is one that I think the Giants should win. People are really low on the Raiders. I think that the Raiders are funny because they are very inconsistent, right? Last year they played up to the Chiefs and they played down to the Jets. They're just a team that plays to their competition level. So I expect them to, wherever the Giants are here, if the Giants are 5-3 as I've predicted, I expect the Raiders to kind of just play to that level and give the Giants a run for their money. But ultimately, this is a game that the Giants should win. The Raiders, they're struggling. They're middling in kind of mediocrity. And I don't see them, beating the Giants, who have made so much improvements on both sides of the ball this offseason. I think that the Giants are really ready to establish themselves as one of the better teams in the league, and I don't think the Raiders are ready to do that. So I think they'll win that one, and they'll go into the bye week 6-3. Bye week is week 10. That's when we get our little break there, football. Smack dab in the middle of the season, which I really like. I think that's good. It splits the season in 2 halves for the Giants, which I think is always good for the players, good for the coaching staff, kind of at the halfway point, reevaluate everything and take a look at what we have going forward. You have to remember it's an 18-week schedule now, so that bye week is really crucial. You really want that in the middle of the season, and so to have it right after week 9, I think that's important. Week 11, we're going to come out of the gates, and we are going to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. Once again, that's our third and final primetime game scheduled for the season, and it's another tough one. It's going to be against the Super Bowl winners this time, the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, again, this is a game that I think that we lose. However, I think this is a game that we give Tampa Bay a run for their money. I think this is one that we come close to winning, just like we did last year. We faced them on primetime Monday night last season. Daniel Jones really struggled in that game. Ultimately, that's what cost us the game. But also, we were one play away from winning or going into overtime. We had a bad pass interference call at the goal line on a 2-point conversion that made the Giants lose the game. And I think, we could have won in overtime. Daniel Jones maybe could have pulled it out, but that would have been a tough one regardless. But I do expect the Giants to match up pretty well. We've got the secondary and clearly have the defensive coordinator that knows how to kind of contain Tampa Bay's offense a little bit. Tampa Bay during the final stretch of the season really just went off and lit up scoreboards, especially in the playoffs. But we kind of held them to a manageable, 22 points in that game, I believe, last season. So I'm pretty, confident Patrick Graham and the Giants to put up a good fight there. But ultimately, I think this is one that we lose. So now I'm gonna recount where we are on the schedule here. So we went 4-0, 4-2, 5-2, 5-3, 6-3, and now we are 6-4 by my count. That's my prediction here going into Week 12. Week 12, this is an exciting one. This is our first matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now that rivalry is really heating up, isn't it, Giants fans? We have a hatred brewing for the Eagles that many of us have felt for a long time, but it's only growing stronger. Like I've said on this podcast many times, there's no one that I hate more. Not a single thing on this earth that I hate more than the Philadelphia Eagles and their fans. I can't wait to play them this year, and I really, really hope to see the Giants smack their teeth out of their mouths. I hate Philadelphia, and I'm really excited for this matchup in Week 12. In November 28th. It's going to be a little chillier.
It's going to be at home in MetLife, and I'm going to say that the Giants are going to win that one because this is a game that they should win. I mean, the Giants made a lot of improvements. The Eagles are still going out with Jalen Hurts as their starting quarterback. I don't believe in Jalen Hurts. I doubt many of you believe in Jalen Hurts. So I think this is one that the Giants win. Then they travel on the road. I will be at this game. Forgot to mention Week 11. I will be at that game, the Monday night game versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm really excited for that because I do live in Florida. So I'm going to drive over to Tampa. I'm going to go see that game. Maybe we'll do a little fan meetup. Holler at me if you're in Tampa. And then holler at me if you're in Miami because I live in Florida. So I will go to that game as well on December 5th. That's going to be a Sunday 1 p.m. game in Week 13. They're going to play the Miami Dolphins. And this is going to be a tough one. I think that the Dolphins have a lot of potential this year to surprise a lot of people and be a team that really competes and makes it into the playoffs. If Tua Tagovailoa can take that next step, then I think you can absolutely look at the Dolphins as a playoff team going into his second season. But, I like Brian Flores a lot. I like what he does with that defense. I like the way he leads that team. And, unfortunately, I would say that the Dolphins would lose this game, but the Dolphins would win this game, but the Giants seem to win nearly every single time that I go to a game. So I'm going to predict them to win this one just out of, my own confirmation bias, I guess. And then in Week 14, we're going to travel over to the Los Angeles Chargers, make the long flight over to California. And we're going to play the Chargers on December 12th at 4:05 p.m. I think this one's interesting. The Chargers are a team that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. They made a lot of improvements this offseason. I really love the Rashawn Slater pick. They showed a lot last year. They showed a lot of promise, just kept losing late games, a lot of bad coaching decisions. Got a new coaching staff in there. It's Justin Herbert going into his second season. I think he's going to be phenomenal. I think he was last year, and I think he's going to continue to be. But, I don't know. What do you think? Giants winning this game? Chargers winning this game? I think this one's tough. I could see this one really going either way. But when I really think about it, I think that the Chargers do have the slightly better roster. I like, their defensive line. I like their offense a lot. I like their playmakers, and I like Justin Herbert a lot. I think this is one where the Giants drop in the later part of the season before we rebound in Week 15 against the Dallas Cowboys at home. Now, I said that I have the Giants losing their first matchup with the Cowboys. I think that they pull out the second one at home. This is the 1 p.m. game. This is the one that, will be less looked at. The 4:25 game, presumably, big Fox matchup with Joe Buck, and it's going to be America's Game of the Week in Week 5 probably. But I think in Week 15, once the season's starting to wind down, I think the Giants are going to be, one of those teams that are fighting for one of those last playoff spots, maybe for the division. And the Cowboys are going to be one of those teams that are also doing the same thing. So this could get flexed, honestly. I could see this game getting flexed depending on how the season's going for these two teams. I know a lot of these games are subject to being flexed, but with the Cowboys in Week 15, I just think this is one that the Giants win. I don't think they get swept by the Cowboys this year. I think the Giants are past getting swept by division rivals, so I do think that they end up winning this one in Week 15 before traveling over to Philadelphia in the dead cold on December 26th, the day after Christmas. 1 p.m. game there, and I think that the Giants win that one. I think that we're going to sweep Philly this year because I don't believe in Jalen Hurts at all. I really don't. I didn't believe in Carson Wentz much, but I still think that he provided more to them than Jalen Hurts does. And I don't know, man. I like Devontae Smith. I think he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. But my thing with Devontae Smith going to the Eagles versus going to a team like the Giants or even the Panthers, right? Devontae Smith said he thought he was going to get drafted by the Panthers, and he thought he was going to get drafted by the Giants. If he was going to the Panthers or the Giants, Devontae Smith was going to enter those teams as a number 2 receiver. He was going to be the Z. He was going to be the secondary option. He's going to develop into the primary option and be the X receiver at some point, develop into their number 1 guy. With Philadelphia, he's going to step in day one and have to be their number 1 guy. And I don't know if Devontae Smith is going to be ready for that. Maybe by week 16 of the season, what we're talking about now, he'll be ready. He'll be, hitting his stride. But I just think the questions about his weight, his size, his strength, all of that are going to come into question for a lot more seriously once he enters the league as a number 1 receiver for a team. If he entered as a number 2 receiver where he's got that pressure taken off of him, say he's playing alongside a guy like Kenny Galladay, a 6'4", ginormous man, I think that would have been good for him to be that number 2 sneaky, slippery option. He doesn't really have that opportunity afforded to him, I don't think. In Philadelphia, I think they're going to try and force him into that X receiver, number 1 receiver mold. Plus, I think that their head coach is a little bit of a clown. I think he's a little bit weird, and I don't see Philadelphia being a good team this year. I think the Giants are going to win that one. I think they're going to sweep Philadelphia for the first time in a long time, and I can't wait to see that happen. Then they're going to travel over to Chicago in the dead of winter. That's going to be a cold game. That football is going to be like a rock on January 2nd in Week 17, 1 p.m. game. That's another game that I should hopefully be at. I'm planning on going to that one. Alex and I are going to try and go over to Chicago and see that one. We're going to link up with some of the Fireside Bears guys, and we're going to try and see that game. So that'll be fun. Maybe we'll meet up with some fans there as well. But this is one that I think it's going to be largely predicated, right, on is Justin Fields playing. I think the Bears hopefully are going to be a bad team, have a really tough schedule, and hand us a really nice draft pick next year. But if Justin Fields comes in midway through the season, starts playing really well, they could win some games down the stretch. And I think that could be one where the Giants do drop. But ultimately, I am going to pick them to win it. I'm going to pick them to win against Chicago and finish the season strong on a winning streak here. And continue that into Week 18 versus Washington. And I think that this ultimately could be the game that decides who wins the division. I think there's a realistic possibility of it being Washington versus Giants. Whoever wins is in. And I think that the Giants, just going off history, going off the track record of Daniel Jones and how he likes to beat up against the Washington football team, I think they win that one. I probably picked a lot of wins here for the Giants. Maybe I'm a little overconfident. Maybe I just am looking at the schedule from afar and not really, taking it all in. There's going to be upsets. There's going to be games that the Giants are expected to win that they lose. There's going to be games that the Giants are expected to lose that they win. So as the season goes on here, that's pretty much what you're going to be looking at. You're going to see a lot of volatility week to week, especially with a team like the New York Giants. They're always volatile. You can never really predict them. They're always the underdogs that end up winning. They're always the guys who are expected to win that end up losing, like I just said. So those are kind of my predictions there. So to recap, have them starting the season 4-0, dropping and going 4-2, 5-2, 5-3, 6-3, 6-4. So kind of coming out of the bye week, 6-4. They're almost hovering around 500 there. Then have them kind of just going on a big win streak. This was probably unrealistic, the win streak that I had them going on. I'm gonna go ahead and look at this again. So I had them going 6-4 out of the bye week, and then 7-4 against Philadelphia at home. I do think that happens. I said they win against Miami. I don't know. That's a coin toss. It's really hard to look at the back half of the season and predict these because so much can happen. So many injuries. So much can happen with these teams. Teams could be hot. Teams could be cold. But I think that they win against Miami, so that would be what? At 8-4, 8-4, so 2-1. That's pretty good for the Giants. 8-4. I'm gonna flip the game against the Chargers. I think that they end up losing that one, go 8-5, and I still think that they finish the season strong, man. I think that they beat Dallas, Philadelphia, Chicago, and Washington. So that'll be what, 9, 10, 11. 12-5. Is that too unrealistic, Giants fans? Probably. I know that their over/under is 7, so I'm probably being really, really, really unrealistically here. Really overly optimistic with the Giants, but just my initial projections. I'm very excited. I'm very optimistic. I really like what the Giants did this year, but this is all predicated on the fact that Daniel Jones plays well. If Daniel Jones doesn't play well, this could easily be 5-12. Rather than 12-5. So you got to keep that in mind, guys. It's going to come down to Daniel Jones and what he can do this year. But I think the Giants are ultimately a team that can win their division and should win their division. I think that they're a good football team, and I think that they have a really favorable matchup or schedule here. I think that the Broncos is a very winnable game. Any game against Washington to me is going to be winnable. Any game against Philadelphia to me is going to be winnable. We have 4 of those, right? I think they split with the Cowboys. They did last year, so why not? I think they're going to win one of those. I think that the Falcons are very winnable. I think that the Saints are winnable. The Bears are winnable. Chargers and Dolphins are going to be tough matchups, but they're winnable. And the Panthers are definitely winnable. I think, Raiders are winnable. I just only see the only matchups that I see really giving the Giants trouble. One of the Cowboys matchups, because Dak Prescott's going to be good. The Chiefs matchup is going to be tough. The Buccaneers matchup is going to be tough. I think that the Chargers matchup going to be tough. The Dolphins matchup is going to be tough, but for the most part, I think the Giants lucked out here, guys. I think they got a pretty favorable schedule. Curious to know what all of you think down in the comment section below. Let me know what is your prediction? What are the Giants going to do this season? What's their final record going to be? Am I too nice? Am I too optimistic? Probably. I think I am. I think ultimately that's going to change for me. I'm probably going to dissect this a little bit more as the season goes on, or as the off season goes on. We inch closer towards the season. I'll probably dissect it and change my mind on a few of those games. But for now, I'm really excited and I'm really optimistic, and I'm going to have the Giants winning all of the games that they should win this year because there's quite a few of them. They've got a lot of really favorable matchups on their schedule, and I'm really excited for that. So hopefully we could see the Giants win a lot of games, and we could see the Chicago Bears lose a lot of games, so we can get the best of both worlds and make the playoffs, enjoy a good football team, and enjoy a high draft pick, right? Because draft season can sometimes be just as fun as the season. And so, that'll be really exciting. Hopefully that's what we get, and yeah. Like I said, guys, I'm really overly optimistic. I'm aware of that, but Giants have a good schedule this year. They have a really favorable schedule, so I'm excited for that. And, let's go Giants. Let me know what you guys think in the description down below. And if you enjoyed this, please leave a like, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, ring the bell so you don't miss a single notification or video that we post. And tune into all of our future videos and live streams. And, of course, leave a nice review for us on Apple and Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're there. And check out Empire Sports Media for more elite content just like this. I will catch you guys in the next one with my co-host Alex Wilson back. And have a good one, guys. We'll see you soon.